India has leveled the border Gavaskar series 1-1. Australia shell-shocked. They won the first test by 8 wickets. They lost the second test by 8 wickets, which raises the following question. What will Justin Langer do moving forward with 2 more test matches to go? What team will he select? India had lots of questions to answer. They went with 4 changes for the second test. 2 necessary, 2 by choice. They replaced Shami with Mohammad Siraj. They replaced Kohli with Jadeja, which is a move many people did not foresee, but it worked perfectly well. And they made 2 more changes that were out of their own strategic decision, which was to let Prithvi Shaw go back into the bench, bring in Shubnam Gill, the other youngster who performed a lot as well. And then second decision they made out of choice was to change the wicket keepers. Saha went, Pant came in. That worked as well too. Pant scored a good quick fire 29, got the momentum going for their batting in in their first innings. Now, what will Justin Langer do for the next 2 test matches? I believe that unless Australia fundamentally changes their batting, they could be looking to a 1-3 defeat in this test series. This could be worse than the series before, even though they won the first test match, even though they have Steve Smith, even though David Warner will be returning for the third test match. Nevertheless, I think Australia's problems predate this present series, specifically the problems with their batting order. It doesn't rotate the strike. It takes more than 100 overs to score just a meager 200 runs. And it frustrates their quick bowlers who when you could see in the face of Mitchell Stark, the first over he bowled after Australia got bowled out for 195. It was a great over. Most balls were he beat the batter. He got one guy out. He bowled a maiden. It was a quick fire, hostile over, but the way he celebrated it was less to do with celebration, more to do with frustration, I think, with the Australian batters. Um, and again, what India did so well in the second test match where they get 10 out of 10 is they exposed Australia's batting for being fragile, even though they were coming into the second test match having been bowled out for 36. They were embarrassed, but really it's Australia's batting that has the more chronic issues, that it has more serious problems. And specifically the issue with them is they cannot rotate the strike. Steve Smith, the greatest churner of runs, the one who likes to, use his wrist, get the ball in square leg region, keep rotating strike. He's getting out in the, he lost his leg wicket against Bumrah, and he gave a slip catching to leg slip against Ashwin in the second test match. So the greatest rotator or strike himself is struggling right now. The rest of them are nowhere close to how good he is at manipulating the field, at using the crease, and at using his wrist and his hands. So they face a lot of trouble. What are they going to do moving forward? Here's what I would do if I were Justin Langer. I either ask myself, do I want to press the panic button and bring someone who's not in this current squad to play for me, specifically to play at that number 3 down position, because that's where India is dominating Australia. India dominates Australia between the overs 45 and 70. Those 25 overs that Australia bat, you usually should score close to 80 runs over those 25 overs. It's perfectly fine to start off a little slow, only score about 60, 70 runs in the first session, and then start off the second session kind of slow too. But by the time you have played out 45 overs and you're, let's say, somewhere around 110 mark, the next 25 have to go for 80 runs, and you can't lose too many wickets. You have to be close to 200 runs by the end of the 70th over mark and not have lost more than 4 wickets. But Australia in the second test match, they were 124 for 3. Bumrah takes out head. It's really Mohammad Siraj's spell, getting out Labuschagne, then getting out Cameron Green. I think that was the turning point in that innings, going from 124 for 3 to 155 for 7. No rhythm to the innings. It's one thing to lose wickets, another thing to just have nothing going for you. Really, it's no good when you look forward to seeing Mitchell Stark bat, just because Mitchell Stark at least has a pull, he has a drive, he has a slog sweep. You just feel like at least he's going to start scoring some runs. Even Nathan Lyon. Nathan Lyon was the most exciting batter in the first inning. He came out and he hooked a ball from Bumrah. He hit him for 4. I think he may have hit a 6 as well. That was more entertaining than anything else the batters had done. So these incredibly painful 40s and 38s and 45s that they're scoring, it's not going to get the job done. We saw this 2 years ago. We've seen this since those 2 years as well, really, Steve Smith and Labuschagne have been an aberration. They have actually not helped us recognize this chronic issue because they've been so brilliant in the Ashes against England, and of course, everyone did just fine against Pakistan's bowling. When Pakistan toured Australia, they were scoring 500 runs in only 100 overs. Warner scored a triple century. Labuschagne was scoring double centuries. All of that spoiled the audience and made them fail to recognize Australia's batting is incredibly weak. So where does Justin Langer go? One option again is to bring in someone completely from outside the squad right now. It could be Sean Marsh or Usman Khawaja. I don't see that happening. Uh, there was some brouhaha about something like that potentially happening before the first test match. When that didn't happen, the first test match, I don't think it will happen any longer. What I would do if I'm Australian is I would actually go with a very counterintuitive plan. Their biggest strength, when you look at the squad, not just the 11 players, but the whole 15 to 16 people they have in the squad, their biggest depth is actually uh, in fast bowling all rounders. They have Cameron Green, who is actually a batter who can bowl, but he can bowl really well. He can bowl about 140. But you also have two other guys. You got Sean Abbott and you got this other guy, Michael Nisa. Both of them, I've heard, are capable of batting at six down. Both of them have scored hundreds in Sheffield Shield, and both of them can bowl really well. Now you would be wondering why. Bowling is the least of Australia's worries. Their top four are clicking. There's the batters that are the issue. You have to fix the batting order. But I think Australia does not have a fix to this batting order for this current series. This fix will have to come down the road. You just don't have a Will Pucovski to come in. And even if Will Pucovski were to come in, which he won't because he's had his ninth concussion, he needs to rest. He cannot be playing the series. But even if he comes, the issue is really not so much about the top order, even though that sounds kind of strange because it's Joe Burns who's not scoring. Matthew Wade is the makeshift opener. To me, the issue is number five. It's Travis Head. Travis Head may have scored 38 runs, albeit, but the way he got out was the way he always gets out, and his getting out was the reason why that inning started to falter. He gets out at the wrongest time. Three down, you have to be somebody who, once you get going, you have to score big, because the issue is once you get out at number five, you bring in the lower middle order and the lower order into bat. You risk them coming into bat too early. The number five has to move and score a big run once he gets in. You cannot, at least cannot get out the same way you have been getting out. So for me, Australia's playing 11 is going to be this for the third test match. Burns goes for Warner. That's everyone's expecting that move. I don't expect any other changes to be made. I think Justin Langer, if he were to just play it safe, he's just going to make one move, which is bring down Burns, bring in Warner for him. What I would do instead, however, is in addition to that move, I would make one more move. And it will be one of those kinds of completely out of the blue, sort of a surprise move. The kind of move India made with Jadeja replacing Kohli. Nobody thought Jadeja would be replacing Kohli because the bowling was not the problem for India. It was their batting. So people thought it would be KL Rahul who's going to replace Kohli. That didn't happen. It was Jadeja. They actually added strength to their batting. But really, it's not so much about adding strength to the batting. It's about creating a certain kind of batting order altogether. It's about adding more meat to the lower middle order. So what I would do if I'm Australia is I recognize that my strength, my depth is in this collection of fast bowlers who can bat. Currently, I have Cummins, but I could also have Sean Abbott and Michael Neser. I would pick one of those two, Abbott or Neser. Preferably for me, it would be Neser because I've already seen Abbott in the ODIs and I didn't get much um, hope out of him, but I've heard he's a great talent. Whichever way they go, I'd pick one of those two and have him substitute for Travis Head. So in that case, Tim Payne would bat at number 6. Cameron Green would go up to number 5, which is really the spot he plays for Western Australia and Sheffield Shield. He is a number 5 batsman, Cameron Green. I'd let him take over that position, have Wade open because he's doing it. Let him keep doing that. Open Wade with Warner. 1 down Labuschagne, 2 down Steve Smith, 3 down Cameron Green, 4 down Tim Payne. Now you may be thinking, wow, this batting order looks really thin. I don't care. I don't expect much. If the top 5 cannot do the job, you shouldn't expect anyone from below the top 5 to have to do the job either. Australia too often is losing 5 to 6 wickets between the scores of 80 to 120. if you're already going to be 5 down, 6 down by a score of 100, if the remaining four give me 70, 80 runs, good for them. But really, that's still not enough. You still less than 200 runs, and it'll be the same thing all over again. So I am demanding the top five to click. One of those top five to score a big 100, someone else to score a big 50 minimum. And then six, I would have Tim Payne. Seven, I would have a Michael Nisa. Okay. And then eight, again, Pat Cummins, and then Stark, Lyon, and Hazelwood to finish the order. Now, even though the batting looks a little thin now, it actually stretches a little big, because let's say I am 4 wickets down, and let's say I'm 130 for four. It's no different than being 130 for four like the last test match. The only difference, however, is I have somebody else who can bat and who will be batting against the likes of Ashwin and Siraj and Bumrah. And maybe there's somebody else will score a quick fire 40. I mean, something new, something different. It's getting boring to see Payne at 7 and then Cummins at 8, because Payne and Cummins play very proper cricketing shots. I need somebody who's a bit of more of a stroke player. I need someone who can change the tempo of the game. Someone like a Ravindra Jadeja for India. Jadeja is not a batsman. He's someone who can bat, and he bats fast. He gets moving. So he may get out for a cheap score, but he's not going to waste your time. He's not going to spend 70 balls and score 14, 15 runs. And Australia needs someone like that. Pat Cummins is a great player, great fielder, great bowler, and can bat as well. But Pat Cummins gets frustrated when it becomes his responsibility to ante up the score. He starts to play shots that he doesn't really want to play. He's somebody who likes to just play proper cricketing strokes. He can do that. He should continue doing that. But he needs someone next to him who is able to play some stroke plays. It's either Sean Abbott or it's Michael Neser. So I would pick them not necessarily for their bowling, although they're in the team for their bowling. It sounds counterintuitive, but follow me. I would pick them for their batting, because they can change the tempo of the batting. Not the amount of runs they score, just the tempo. Even if 30 runs scored off 40 deliveries, some one of them could do that. That can change the tempo. Australia's issue with their batting is not just that they're not scoring enough runs, is that the amount of time they're scoring to score such few amount of runs. You shouldn't have to spend 103 overs to score just 200 runs. They're doing it because there is no tempo in that batting order. So I would expect the top five to do my run scoring. If they don't do the run scoring to the amount that I would have expected them to, then I want the number 6 and the number 7 of Payne and Neser to actually at least get the scoreboard moving. Whatever the score is, just start moving. Don't just block anymore. And then Cummins to play his role, and then Stark and Lyon do move the scorecard anyway. That's the way they like to play, and that's the way I would expect them to play as well. So that would be my decision: Warner for Burns, Michael Nisa, or Sean Abbott for Travis Head. I hope you enjoyed this video, and look forward to adding more videos. And please send your comments and do subscribe to the show as well. Thank you.